Greetings, students. With a class 8, we are discussing chapter 3 of history, that is ruling the countryside. So, we have discussed up to permanent settlement yesterday, and then we discussed about the Meherwari system also, where the village headmen used to just give this or deposit the revenue to the company. Let us discuss the Monroe system. So, what is there in the Monroe system or the Rayatwari system? So, let's start with it. So, Monroe system in the British territories in the south, there was a similar move away from the idea of permanent settlement. The new system that was devised came to be known as the Rayatwad or Rayatwari. It was tried on a small scale by Captain Alexander Reed in some of the areas that were taken away by the company after the wars with Tipu Sultan, subsequently developed by Thomas Monroe. This system was gradually extended all over South India. So the Monroe system, it was first it was tried in a small area. It was started in contrast to the permanent settlement, and for this in this Rayatwari system, the company the areas which were occupied after defeating Tipu Sultan, first it was applied in those areas, and as it was devised or developed by Thomas Monroe, that's why it is known as Monroe system also, and later on it was extended all over South India. So first it was devised in a small area. It was a kind of experiment. So when it succeeded in a large small area, then it was devised on the large area of the South India. So then Reed and Monroe felt that in the south there was no traditional zamindars. The settlement, they argued, had to be made directly with the cultivators, like there was no zamindari system. So the the company over there, they just decided that the settlement or this contract, it should be done directly with the cultivator or the farmer or rayat, that was called rayat, who had tilled the land for generations. So their fields had to be carefully and separately surveyed before the revenue assessment was made. So here also, first the area, the land, it was surveyed, what kind of soil is there, what kind of crops are grown on the area, and about production, everything was assessed first, and then revenue was fixed. So Monroe thought that the British should act as paternal father figures, protecting the riots under their charge. So it's a kind of pretension that the British, they pretended to act as the father figure who protected the riots under their charge. So whatever the area comes under the British, they just acted as the protector of that area. So all was not well. So what was not well, let us discuss. Within a few years after the new systems were imposed, it was clear that all was not well with them, driven by the desire to increase the income from land. Revenue officials fixed too high a revenue demand. So we discussed in the beginning also that the British, they were traders, and they wanted to expand, they wanted to earn more and more profit, more and more money. And when they started collecting revenue at that time also, the main motive of the British was to have more income from the land, have more revenue. So here also the British officials, they just fixed two very high revenue demand. The peasants, they were not able to pay that taxes or the revenue. So the reyes, they started fleeing from the countryside and villages. So some of the areas became completely deserted, means the people just they left their native places. So optimistic officials had imagined that the new system would transform the peasants into rich enterprising farmers, but this did not happen. So the British officials, they imagined that this new system would give more money to the cultivators, but it did not happen. So it what happened, it was just the opposite. So crops for Europe, the British also realized that the countryside could not only yield revenue, it could also grow the crops that Europe required. So the British, they realized that they could just have revenue from the land here, and they could also uh, grow the crops which were required by the Europeans. So by the late 18th century, the company was trying its best to expand the cultivation of opium and indigo. So these were the two things which were in great demand. So the British, they started the cultivation of opium and indigo in India. So in the century and a half that followed, the British persuaded or forced cultivators in various parts of India to produce other crops. So with the passage of time, the British, they compelled the Indian farmers to grow some of the crops which were required by the British or by the Europeans. So there were many crops like jute in Bengal, tea in Assam, sugarcane in the United Provinces, means Uttar Pradesh, then wheat in Punjab, cotton in Maharashtra and Punjab, and rice in Madras. So these were some of the uh, crops which they needed here. So how was this done? The British used a variety of methods to expand the cultivation of crops that they needed. Let us take a closer look at the story of one such crop, one such method of production. So if the British, they wanted the cultivation of their desired crops, so they adopted many policies or many methods to get their work done. So how they did it, so let's have a story. So does color have a history? Then this we have discussed yesterday also, that these are the two designs. One is kalamkari and the other one also, that is a machine woven cloth. So in both the paintings, blue color is used, and this blue color, it was made up of from the indigo plant. So indigo plant, you people know that it is grown, and this blue color, it is obtained from the plant, blue plant. Okay, so the blue color, this it comes from plant, and this blue color, it was in great demand in the Europe. So there were some places where this indigo from India, it was famous, and it was in great demand, and but the production was less and the demand was more. So what could be done in the situation? See, so in the Indian indigo, it reached the European market, and its price was very high. So European cloth manufacturers therefore had to depend. See, the Indian indigo, it was cultivated on a small area, so the supply was small. Sorry, the production was small, but the demand was more. So the Europeans, they had to depend on one more plant, that was woad plant. So Neil or indigo, it was obtained from one more plant, that was woad. uh, but the Europeans, they wanted to have a safe market. They didn't want the Indian indigo in their own market, so in their home market. So they compelled their governments to ban the entry of or import of indigo. Next, cloth dyers, however, preferred indigo as a dye. Indigo produced a rich blue color, whereas the dye from wood was pale and dull. So, Indian indigo, it was in great demand because its color was good, of good quality. But the color or the dye from the wood plant, it was pale and dull. By the 17th century, European cloth producers persuaded their government to relax the ban on indigo import. So, these were the cloth producers or the industrialists who persuaded the governments to just give some relaxation to the ban of indigo import. So, the French began cultivating indigo in Saint Domingo on the Caribbean islands. The Portuguese in Brazil, the English in Jamaica, and the Spanish in Venezuela. So, these were some of the places where the production of indigo was started. Indigo plantations also came up in many parts of North America. So, later on, it was started in the Northern America also. So, by the end of the 18th century, the demand for Indian indigo grew further. So, but Britain began to industrialize and its cotton production expanded dramatically, creating an enormous new demand for cloth dyes. While the while the demand for indigo increased, its existing supplies from the West Indies and America collapsed for a variety of reasons. So, there was the industrial revolution in Britain. So, the industrialists, the cotton producers, they just demanded this indigo uh, in great amount for the cloth dyes. So, while the demand of indigo was increased, but the supply collapsed from some of the areas West Indies and America. So, there were many reasons behind it. Between 1783 and 1789, the production of indigo in the world fell by half. Cloth dyers in Britain now desperately looked for new sources of indigo supply. So, as the demand was more but the production was less, so that's why the government started new ways to have the dye or have the color. So, I think this is all for today, and if you have any question, query, you can discuss with me tomorrow in the class. Have a great day.